That would be nice.
Sophie Turner just sued Joe Jonas for a pretty bizarre reason. He's allegedly keeping her kids away from her, and that's not all. The lawsuit documents reveal just how dark and twisted their divorce truly is. In Sophie's lawsuit, she made some huge claims against Joe Jonas. She said that he's hiding their daughter's passports from her, which is stopping her from bringing them back to England with her. And she even revealed that over Christmas 2022, they decided together that they would move to England to raise their daughters. They were going to look for schools for their oldest daughter Willa there and everything, which is a pretty insane move to make because almost all of Joe's work takes place in America, and his brothers, who he works with, live in America. And that's not even the worst thing that the documents revealed. She revealed just how bad the divorce filing was for her, because she claims that she didn't even know that he was filing for divorce until she read about it in the press, which is just truly insane, especially because we've all been watching how he's been releasing stories and statements about how she's an absent mom, and now we're finding out that he's been keeping them from her. All of this obviously makes Joe look horrible, but he's already made a statement in response to the lawsuit. His representative told TMZ that Sophie and Joe had multiple conversations about getting divorced, and that he told her he was going to file for divorce in Florida since that was where their primary residence was at the time. His representative claimed that when he filed for divorce, an order was put into place that stops either of them from relocating the kids. Then they said that Joe and Sophie met up last Sunday in New York and that he handed the kids off to her then. The next day, Sophie let Joe know that she wanted to move the kids to the UK, which would violate the court order in Florida. In the statement, Joe says that he was fine with the kids being raised in both the UK and the US, but they were born in America and have spent most of their lives in America, and he didn't want them to permanently live in the UK. So it definitely sounds like Sophie wanting to move to England permanently might have played a part in the reason for their divorce. But he also stated that Sophie is making all of the claims that she did because she's trying to get the divorce proceedings moved to the UK, and that's why she's saying she had no idea that he was filing, which I guess makes sense. But they were married in the US, so it seems like no matter what, the divorce proceedings should take place in the US, not the UK. Joe Jonas recently announced his divorce from Sophie Turner, and for days their PR teams have been going back and forth with stories about each other. But one major person has been missing in all of this, and you'll never believe who it is. That person is Joe Jonas's mom, Denise. Over the years, ever since the Jonas brothers got famous, Denise has become known for being a toxic boy mom. She has 4 sons and no daughters, and she hasn't always been shy about her feelings toward her daughters-in-law. In 2012, Denise's overbearing nature was revealed on the Jonas family's short-lived reality series Married to Jonas. The show was mainly centered around Kevin and his wife Danielle, but almost right away, his mom's true colors were exposed. At first, Denise seemed to have a comeback for everything that Danielle had to say. Kevin tried to justify his mom's behavior, but it still sounded extremely overwhelming.
There's some pressure on Danielle, definitely, because she is the first Jonas woman other than her.
Denise's responses might not have always seemed mean-spirited, but Danielle couldn't even express her opinion on the weather without getting dirty looks from her mother-in-law.
Oh, it's hot today, isn't it?
What makes that even worse is that Danielle first met Kevin and his parents back in 2007. So not only was she already married into the family by the time the show was filmed, but she had known them for years. Still, she felt like she had to walk on eggshells around Denise. Denise's controlling behavior was also front and center on the show. When Danielle tried to impress the family by cooking dinner for them, Denise kept getting in the way and taking over. At this point, Sophie wasn't even in the picture yet. But if Denise's actions around Danielle proved anything, it's that she was clearly one of those toxic boy moms who became an even more toxic mother-in-law. But she tried to hide this side of her as all of the other boys got married. She was constantly talking about how much she loved her daughters-in-law. She even called them her daughters in love. But here's the thing, Sophie definitely didn't live up to the expectations that Denise had for her daughter-in-law. At least if she wanted them to be anything like she was as a wife and mother, Denise was a stay-at-home mom who made it her entire life to focus on raising her boys and helping their careers take off. Meanwhile, Sophie did take some time off from acting when she had her 2 daughters, but now she's getting back into her career, and you can only imagine that Denise doesn't approve. I'm sure that she wanted her daughters-in-law to support her sons in their careers and to take care of their kids, just like she did. But that's just not what happened. Joe Jonas caught Sophie Turner on his Ring camera, doing the unthinkable, and now he has officially filed for divorce. For years, everyone thought they were a perfect couple, but now the truth on what actually went down with these two is coming out, and it's not good. Joe seemed perfectly fine walking around NYC without his ring on, but behind closed doors, he has completely fallen apart. Look, he was seen sobbing on stage a night or two ago, and I've heard from close sources that he's heartbroken. So what happened? Why didn't they work out? The news about Joe and Sophie took everyone by surprise, especially after someone from Joe's team leaked what actually went down. Supposedly, Joe caught Sophie doing something horrible on their Ring camera. It was allegedly so bad that they wouldn't say what it was. But whatever it was, it made Joe absolutely positive that there was no coming back from it, and he decided to file for divorce. According to the filing, Joe said that their marriage is irrevocably broken, which is usually code for cheating or betrayal. Is it possible that Sophie cheated on Joe? There was definitely a lot of drama going on behind closed doors. They've essentially been living completely separate lives. Joe's been on tour in America with his brothers, and Sophie's been in the UK. But those weren't the only signs we got that something was going wrong with them. Obviously, we could argue that Sophie has been in the UK because she was filming a new project, but she's been suspiciously absent from most of Joe's concerts lately. While his brothers, wives, and kids are always in attendance, that's not to say that she's been completely absent. She did go to opening night, which doesn't exactly scream separated, and she even photographed herself wearing a friendship bracelet that referenced a Taylor Swift song about Joe Jonas, Mr. Perfectly Fine. And while Sophie's been known for years to make jokes about Taylor's breakup songs about Joe, you have to wonder if Sophie had started to relate to them too. Mr. Perfectly Fine is all about Joe out in public after their breakup, looking like he's perfectly fine while Taylor is at home and super upset about everything that happened, which sounds like it could be pretty similar to what Joe and Sophie are supposedly going through, except for the fact that it sounds like everything has come crashing down for Joe, and he has looked completely heartbroken at his concerts lately. When he's been singing Hesitate lately, a song that he specifically wrote for Sophie, he's been extremely emotional and even sobbing on stage. That being said, his ring has been absent on and off for the last few weeks, but he claimed that he just chose not to wear it sometimes. Strangely enough, the same day the news came out that they were heading for divorce, Joe decided to wear his ring on stage that night for one of the first times in a long time, and just hours before he filed for divorce, he posted an Instagram picture with his ring on, which made a lot of rumors leak that maybe it was Joe's last attempt to try and win back Sophie. What do you think? But when you look back at their relationship, it's not very shocking. Joe is much older than Sophie. They got married when he was 29 and she was only 23. And they got married just a few months after Game of Thrones ended, a show that Sophie had starred in since she was 13 years old. She was going through a massive transition phase in her life, and she's even admitted that they both got cold feet before the wedding, and they broke up 24 hours before deciding that they were being done. They immediately got back together and got married in Vegas. Then they almost immediately started having kids, even though she was only in her early 20s. In a little under 2 years, they had 2 babies, which is already a hard situation, but even more so when one of the parents is touring the country and another one is in an entirely different country working. On top of that, Sophie was young when she jumped into all of this. She's only 27 now, and she's already been married for 4 years. You can only imagine that her thoughts and opinions have changed a lot in the last 4 years. So now that we know for sure that they're getting divorced, based on Joe's latest outings, it it definitely seems like this was not his decision and that he is not taking this well. Even though they definitely seem like the perfect couple over the years, everything isn't always as it seems. Hopefully, if they are struggling, they're able to work it out and stay together. I really feel bad for their 2 young babies. They're only 1 and 3 years old. They are so young, and now that we know that Joe and Sophie are actually going through this divorce, it won't be easy. My heart aches for Sophie, Joe, and especially the babies. What do you think? Can you believe that they're actually getting divorced already when their kids are so young? And do you think Joe is really as heartbroken as he's making it seem? Let me know in the comments below.